Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of Is This Pilot Actually Good? And it's summer, right? This is the time when, in theory, in most summers, we would actually be trying to get away, leave our house, and go somewhere else. So we're going to the Jersey Shore. Insert word here, like Snooki often says. This is that's the Ronnie dance, isn't it?
Ronnie dance.
Yeah, I pretty much I see like I have Ronnie's hands in front of my face all the time. But
we have no Ron juice with us. Instead, we have some coffee over here.
This is really just Mountain Dew, but I could claim that it was something a little bit more disastrous than that.
Yeah, we'll just pretend.
We'll pretend. This show is probably one of the biggest reality juggernauts of all time. It is more than 10 years old, which makes us all feel really old at this point.
Yeah.
It has been on so long, and I know Jess and we have kept up a lot with Jersey Shore over the years. It's gone through all of these different iterations and spin-offs and promotional nonsense.
Yeah, full disclosure, we like to always sort of let you guys know when we're doing these pilot series. If we've only seen the pilot, we've never seen the show, we've seen all the show, we've seen some of the show. I've seen all of the show.
I think I've seen most of it. There's probably a couple of like family vacation episodes here or there I've missed. I got like 2 episodes into the Polly D project and I was like, this is not good. I'm out. Sorry, Polly. But no, we've seen a lot of Jersey Shore, but I think we've probably also seen this pilot like 4 or 5 times between us.
Yeah, we've watched our fair share of Jersey Shore. I mean, we have the decoration of the situation that Matt puts up with every year because I'm a fan. I like it. I make no apologies for it. I just like something that's silly and ridiculous like this to sometimes just get away from it all.
It is a situation. Let's just put it that way. But anyway.
Don't pretend like you don't like it.
It is fun. It is the entire show, Jersey Shore, is fun, and I'll talk a little bit through this video about kind of my early perception of the show and how it's changed a little bit over time. But before we get into anything more here, if you do like this video, give us a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We have all sorts of fun stuff coming up throughout this summer. Hopefully, we'll have more shows coming back to work soon, so we'll have even more to talk about.
Yeah. So one of the things that I like to start our videos off with is talking about the theme song. And the theme song for Jersey Shore is perfect for Jersey Shore. It's fun, party music, and that is exactly what the show is.
I really feel like the entire pitch of this show is, let's get some Italian-American people in a house, let's get them drunk, and let's see what happens. Like, this is a 20-second pitch that I'm sure someone went into MTV to do, and they already had, like, I don't know, however many seasons of The Real World at this point. Like, they know the effectiveness of this already.
Yeah, Real World was such a big hit, and I mean, it really paved the way for so many types of shows like this on MTV, and still even now. Now we have Floribama Shore, which is the same thing except in a different part of America.
It is just, it's such a tried and true premise, and it's so weird though to sort of put myself back in 2009 when this show first premiered. I mean, for starters, it was forever ago, but there were straight up protests, there were ad boycotts. Like, this was really, really controversial, and you think about it sort of now, and maybe it's just at such a different time because now it seems like nobody really cares. Jersey Shore is just sort of thought of as, okay, it's just nonsense. It's not meant to be taken seriously. But everyone took Jersey Shore so seriously when it first came out.
Yeah, and it's so interesting with all the ad boycotts that were going on because this show grew in such popularity that a couple of tweets from the cast members actually heard, I think it was like Abercrombie and Fitch was like, oh, we're not going to deal with you. We don't want you guys wearing our clothes anymore. And they were kind of like, yeah, all right, we'll see how that goes. And it really hurt that business.
Yeah, like they had developed so much power. And I think one of the problems with sort of the show and the perception of the show in the early going is I never really took it as, okay, this show is meant to represent every single person within a specific community. No. It's sort of like, these are just some people who grew up in this part of the country, who identify as a very specific sort of culture, and we're gonna follow them. We're gonna see what happens. They are idiots at times, like, let's just say like it is. But
they are entertaining idiots.
Yeah, and they're more than just that. They're more than just the stereotype. I think over the years you do see them care for each other, represent important things. Like, they're multifaceted people, but this premiere, it really is just sort of boiling them down to, hey, let's look at Snooki falling down the stairs, people hooking up, somebody's lost their underwear in the hot tub.
Yeah, this was quite the premiere. I mean, they did a really good job of laying out what this is. We're all going to see these people go to the Jersey Shore. They're all going to party together. We got tiny little clips of how they live their lives at home and seeing Pauly D's hair gel collection and Vinnie with his mom, which is really iconic now and has continued on through the vacation stuff as well. I mean, there are some things that have obviously changed since then, but they did a good job introducing everyone sort of in their little packages, except for JWoww. I'm going to throw that out there. JWoww was like nothing like her package. It felt very different, where she was kind of like, I'm this and I'm this bad girl, I'm crazy. And yeah, she did some stuff that was crazy, but I also felt like JWoww was a little more grounded than a lot of other people.
I think sort of what this pilot is in a lot of ways, even though it's a reality show, it's still like a pilot for a comedy or for a drama where they don't actually know who their people are yet, and you sort of see that throughout. I do think, they captured the essence of Pauly D really well.
They did.
I'm a DJ, this is what I do, I don't want to do any other sort of job, I like hooking up with people. The situation for who he was back then, that is him. JWoww, I don't think they had a handle on it. I'm guessing that this JWoww we saw sort of in the pilot is the JWoww that auditioned for the show. I'm gonna rip guys' heads off, I'm gonna be this sort of like aggressive person, and I think it's just when she got in there around those people and she, I think everybody's sort of behavior is dictated in part by their environment, right?
Absolutely. And I think that was how JWoww thought she was going to go into the show. And then she got into the house and there's people like Snooki there and the guys are acting crazy and everyone's so crazy. It almost felt like she had to be sort of like the adult in the room. And I'm not saying that she wasn't crazy or whatever in her own right. She was. But I think she kind of ended up having to just adapt to the situation a bit. It was also kind of strange to see Ronnie being a bit of the adult in the room. We saw the other three guys jumping in a jacuzzi second night with random women they found on the boardwalk. Everybody's dropping all their clothes. And Ronnie was not in there for, being like, yeah, why are you guys doing this? Of course it's going to make everybody upset. And I was just like, Ronnie is being the adult in the room. And we all know how it has sort of gone along for Ron.
Ronnie is the just dumpster fire of the entire Jersey Shore franchise now. He is through so much drama over the years.
He's gone through a lot.
He has gone through a lot, but the pilot is a good sort of example of evolution, humanity, and that's why it's so important to sort of look at these people as fully fledged individuals. The person overall, though, watching this pilot back, that I was kind of the most surprised by is Vinnie. Like, he just comes across in this first episode, like, sort of just, I don't want to say smarmy, but very much like, oh, I'm better than these people, and here's why. I'm going to sort of fire off from them from afar. He's like the Survivor player who sort of knows what's going on in the game and he's just laughing at everybody else on their way of being voted off. Like, he thinks he's got it all figured out, this Vinnie.
Yeah, and he had said, I just turned 21. This is my first time really being able to go down there, get into the bars. And he did come in with quite the chip on his shoulder, be like, oh, if guys are like this, I'm not going to be down. Sammi, she's all right. I thought the girls would be cuter. Sammi is a good-looking girl. There just is no arguing with that, to be like, she's okay. I mean, I know everybody has their tastes or whatever, but yeah, Vinnie came across a lot more unlikable than I've grown to like him over the years. I think he didn't really know where he was going to fit in either. And he was the youngest in the group. I mean, Polly was already almost 30. So
Yeah.
it's kind of hard when there is a big gap like that. And now, of course, they're best friends.
There are so many things in this episode that just aged sort of terribly when you think about the longevity of Jersey
Really?
Shore. I mean, I'm not just talking about the, hey, let's all take our clothes off in the hot tub, which is really zero chance I think this gets on television in 2020.
Yeah, it's a bit much.
No, it is a bit much, and then much and much and much atop of all of that. But the weird Mike Sammi relationship that's going on in this episode, it's sort of like, okay, the producers felt like we had to have a showmance sort of in the early going. I'm sure they probably tried to push the two of them together. We never actually really got any sense as to what Sammi saw in the situation. It was just sort of like, oh, Mike wants to hook up with her, so now they're getting close to each other.
Yeah, I mean, I think she liked the attention, obviously, and she's a good-looking girl. Mike's a good-looking guy. I mean, like, they're there to have fun. It was when I saw, like, the holding hands and stuff that was a little more like, okay, we're not just hooking up. There might be something more here. I always wondered, and especially after rewatching the pilot now, that if Mike hadn't been involved in that hot tub incident and maybe Ron was in there and Mike was the person who was saying, no, I'm not interested, you guys have a fun time, and maybe if there was an extra week or 2 weeks that he was spending with Sammi, would Ron have ever been in a relationship with Sammi at all? I don't know. Things could be very different right now.
There are a couple of really interesting Jersey Shore what ifs. I mean, number one, this one obviously. What if Mike and Sammi became a thing? Does Mike's entire narrative change? Does he not sort of go downhill on this show like he does without having that sort of like stable relationship? The other I kind of wondered a lot about is that what if it was Snooki? Because Snooki's talking about leaving at the end of this first episode. What if she left instead of Angelina, and then that was just sort of it for Snooki? Like, the entire show changes, and changes big.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I had heard of Jersey Shore, of course, but I had never watched it. I wasn't someone who watched it right away when it was on the air because I wasn't that interested in partying and whatever. I was just kind of nerdy then. I'm nerdy now. I'm not really a club goer, whatever. But so I wasn't that interested in the show. But episode 4 is when everything changed for this show, and it went from a show that some people were enjoying to like this crazy juggernaut show. And it's all that episode where Snooki got punched, and she's such a tiny person. As a grown man, it was shocking then. It's still shocking now that ever happened. And so it drew an unbelievable amount of attention to the show, including me, who would have never really watched that show or gotten to know any of these people or became a fan of the show if that hadn't happened. And it actually not only brought the cast together, but it brought all the viewers out for it as well. So if Snooki had left, I mean, she's arguably one of the biggest stars of this show. So if she had left, I don't even know what would have ended up happening to the show, because that incident never would have happened.
It's such a weird situation because Jersey Shore came under a lot of fire back when they aired that, because it was sort of, why are you depicting this violence on television? And it's terrible, and it's still terrible that Snooki had to go through it. But then you have sort of the, looking back at it, it is the moment that unified a lot of the cast. I think it's a moment that also showed, in some ways, this is something that actually does happen to young people and young women out there. And I think it's important to shine a light on really terrible things that happen. And it did, one way or another, it did turn the show into a huge sensation. We were looking up the ratings earlier, when we got to season 3, season 4, it was getting more than 8 million live viewers a week. That is insane for cable.
Yeah, and it started at like 1.8 for the first couple episodes. Next one was kind of like 2, and getting closer to 3 for that episode where she got punched. And then it just blew up. Like, it really was steadily millions and millions and millions more. It was crazy. I remember hearing about that punch through, of course, everyone was talking about it. It was everywhere. And that MTV was kind of like, I'm not sure if we're going to show it. Should we? Shouldn't we? What's the right thing to do? I'm really glad that they did decide to show it, because the way that they put it together, they didn't glorify it or make it like super crazy sensational. It felt very raw, something that I think was important to put out there. This happened. This guy did this. It was brutal, and his face was shown. It was just a straight up, here we go, this is the guy. And I think they made the right decision, not just for the show, just for people watching, that this stuff does happen.
Yeah, and that guy got very much punished for it, so it's not something that was just sort of glossed over after the fact. It was a huge moment for this show, and that's why it is interesting looking back at this first episode, because Snooki is kind of ostracized from the group for a lot of it, and she doesn't feel like she really fits in. And then there's everything that happens with her showing up to work, and I want to talk about the convention of work on one of these shows, because they did this on The Real World. They do it here.
Yeah,
this whole idea of, okay, if you want to be on this show, you got to come to the Shore store and sell some t-shirts. And it's just like, okay, come on, guys. This is only here so that you can present some sort of time, so that you have like an actual sort of flow of the narrative, where it's not, here's a party, it's okay, now you have something else different to do in the day, so you're not just sleeping all day.
And they also, I'm sure, wanted to make it feel like we're taking a peek into somebody's lives, and to sort of pretend that it's not a show. Like when Danny came in, he's like, oh, if you want to live in this house, you have to work. I was just kind of like, if you want to live in this house, you have to work. This is a TV show, Danny. Like, we're all in on it with you guys. But they really did want it to feel like we're taking a peek into their sort of their summer, and their everyday lives include a job, as well as having a boss and a landlord. And this is how they're going to keep their house. And it has nothing to do with the fact that MTV rented it out. Like, it was very strange that way, because as the show went on over the years, they tried to keep up that narrative. And when we're getting into weird season like 3 and 4 and 5, and they're all like mega millionaires at this point, and they're like, yeah, we're still working at the t-shirt shop. I'm like, okay, you guys have to drop this. It just isn't real, and we all know how much money they're making. This is such a crock.
That's why, to me, like, I didn't love seasons 5 and 6 in particular, like the last ones that they had back at Jersey Shore, because it was very weird that they were trying to create this sort of artificial narrative when you know you have, if Snooki is at the t-shirt shop, you're gonna have like 1,000 people lining up at the Jersey Shore because they want to see Snooki.
And security, like, it's not just she's going to press some shirts.
No, and that's what makes the first season to me so fun, is that these people, they don't really know what they're doing, and that's why they are sort of fitting into that sort of lovable idiot box, because they're making mistakes, and they're doing things that are really questionable. And you have Angelina coming into the house with all her stuff in a trash bag.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's such a weird impression to make, and like that to me, eyebrow raising. The idea that you have these guys willing to be in this hot tub with these strangers who they don't really know in this really weird and uncomfortable situation.
It's also still mind-boggling to me, and maybe I'm just not in this I'm not in this environment, that you're gonna have people just walking on the boardwalk, be like, hey, you want to come up and be in our jacuzzi? Oh, I don't have a bathing suit. Great, just come in your bra and underwear. All right, cool, man. Oh, you're filming on top of it? Sure, here, take my underwear. I was just like, obviously they know they're on TV, so were they kind of a plant, or like what's going on? Like, something felt like I just couldn't tell, and maybe it's just because I'm not in that environment. That's not something that I would do. It's something that other people would do, maybe, or were they? I don't know. I just always looked at that particular scene. I was kind of like, I don't know, man. Maybe these are people that were planted by MTV to be like, okay, we need to stir up the drama. Hey, ladies, you want to be on the show? Yeah, we do. Okay, cool. Walk by.
I do at least wonder if there was somebody who went to like one of the local bars, like in Karma, a club they went to a lot in Jersey. Maybe a producer was in Karma, found a couple of people, because they couldn't really sell them on a show because nobody knew if this was going to be a hit or not.
Yep.
But maybe if they were just sort of like, you want to have a good time, or do you want to hang out with some people, go over here, we'll kind of set it up so that we have some cast members up there, because I'm sure while the conversations between the guys and the women are authentic, and I know that Sally Ann Salsano is the executive producer, that's something that she's really pressed time and time again, that everything that happens is real, but I think at the same time they had to be thinking, okay, we need something within this premiere that people are going to talk about, and Snooki falling down the stairs and Angelina with the trash bags, like none of that is going to stir up conversation as much as here are three strangers coming upstairs and getting into the hot tub and taking off their underwear while some of the female cast members are just sitting there being like, what in the world is happening?
Yeah, I feel like the situations are still authentic, but I do feel like they're introduced. And because, I mean, those guys could have been sitting up there all night hollering at women walking by and nobody could have done anything, and then they have nothing, right? So there's still ways to make it authentic while also still be introducing the subject. But no, I think overall it was a pretty good pilot. If I had just watched the pilot without any knowing what was coming up 4 episodes later, would I have watched any more? Probably not, honestly. And it's not because the pilot wasn't put together well. It's just it wasn't my type of show. The thing that got me into this show was seeing Snooki, who's super small like me. I think she's like 4'9" or 4'10" or something. I'm only 5 feet. So seeing somebody as small like me get hit like that, immediately I was drawn into her. So I hadn't seen any of this other stuff. I started at episode 4 and then went back and watched a little bit more to catch up. So for me, episode 4, yes, I'm in. I would watch the next episode, and I did. And I've watched all the seasons multiple times. But the pilot, for me, if it was just like, oh, I'm just going to turn this on, I don't think I would have watched the second episode.
I don't know if I would have, because I remember my first sort of feeling about this show was being, and I'll own up to it, I was pretty judgmental about a lot of this, because I'm not a party person, as it wasn't.
You're not?
Yeah, I know, the big surprise, everyone.
What?
I've probably been to maybe like 4 nightclubs in my entire life, and most of them were fake nightclubs on Beauty and the Geek, so like, I don't know this environment. I don't relate to any of these people at all. Like, I don't have the social skills of pretty much any of them. I can't, and so these are just not people that I would sort of attach myself to. But over the years, though, the thing that I've kind of come to realize more and more is it's kind of boring to watch people who are similar to yourself all the time and see points of view that are just like your own. I find it interesting to watch people who are very different from me and sort of understand where they come from. And yeah, the Snooki incident's where I first heard about the show, but really it was just watching the relationships develop over time and actually kind of getting to understand why these people are the way that they are. Like, that's really what drew me in. So, isolated, if I knew nothing else about Jersey Shore and just watched the first episode, I don't know if I would have kept watching, but here's the thing. If it was like, let's say a holiday weekend, and this was like 8 or 9 years ago when we didn't have a million streaming services and there was a Jersey Shore marathon on and I was bored, I could see myself watching like 4 or 5 episodes of this just straight through and being like, all right, I'm in now. Let's do it. Let's go.
Yeah, the thing that really worked, I think, for the show over the years is watching them grow and change and mature. Like, I remember when they were coming up with the idea of, oh, let's do this family reunion sort of thing. And I'm like, and Snooki's got kids, and JWoww's married and kids, and like it's all sort of like, I was just like, I don't know how this is gonna work, because the whole idea was these guys are partying and this and that, whatever. Now they're all like families and moms and everything going on. But that actually ended up being a big appeal of the show for me, is watching them grow, watching them, that first night with Snooki where she's being ridiculous and taking all her clothes off and getting jacuzzi and kissing everybody and drunk and on the floor, whatever, to seeing where she ended up now. It was a really cool journey.
I think there is something to be said for because reality TV, so much of it is about kind of just watching people and understanding their lives and seeing how that evolves and changes over time. And that is the appeal of Family Vacation in a lot of ways, of the show still being on. Like, there are times I'll watch the newer shows and I'll feel like, okay, it feels like I'm seeing the same thing every week, and it kind of gets a little bit dry here or there for me. But I do think, though, that in the end, the personalities do tend to bring it home, and the magic of Jersey Shore is all of these people together. I didn't really dig Snooki and JWoww that much. I didn't like the Paula D project. I don't think they're as good separately as they are together.
Yeah, I mean, they have had a lot of different spin-offs. I mean, Double Shot at Love is like still going on, sort of thing. And we did have Snooki and JWoww that were like rooming together, whatever. Again, it was still that idea of like, why is this happening? You guys are all millionaires. Like, nobody needs to live together. But the magic of this show really is all of them together. And even when we have, of course, had cast members come in and out or whatever, but sort of the core that's been there from the beginning, I mean, they're really holding it together. That's why we won't get too much into what's coming up, if they're having the next season or whatever of the family reunion. Yeah. Everything's just kind of up in the air right now with the cast. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
All right, well, I think we're in kind of agreement in our take on the pilot. It's not perfect by any means. I don't know if it, in its own, gets you into the show, but it's a fascinating thing to look back at. It's an important chapter in reality TV history. But what did you guys think about the first episode of Jersey Shore? Be sure to share all of your thoughts on it in the comments, and if you do like this video, give us a like, subscribe, and you can support us further by checking the link in the description to the store, and we'll see you here next time.